Hello, this is Jason with LMGI, continuing with SolidEdge fundamentals. Now we're going to talk about the hole command. We're in ordered modeling. First, take notice that this part has an little angled tab on it, and it's not only is it angled down away from the base coordinate system, but I'll turn the base on so we can see that it's got some taper on the sides. So we'll go ahead and start the synchronous hole command. And if you were previously locked to some other face, you can unlock. Now, I like to point out little things from time to time. Notice the green. There's an edge highlighted. It's green in my case. If I tap N on the keyboard, it will cycle through and find a different edge. So now, when I tap F3 and lock, my x-axis is along that edge. So you have control over that. So with synchronous modeling, you're kind of placing holes dynamically. You don't go into a profile environment like you do in ordered mode. So with synchronous, they give us a way to place dimensions without having to do a sketch, and you use keys on the keyboard. It's right down there in the prompt. So if I tap E and then come down here and tap E, I'll get 2 dimensions for free. And you'll notice that the E is for end, but the end that they're talking about is really the intersection point of those 2 linear edges. It kind of ignores the round. There is another keystroke J, as you see, that jumps, that will toggle that behavior, but for the most part you usually would want the intersection. So I'm going to key in 20 and do tab and do 20 and do tab. So that put 2 dimensions in there for me, which are going to control that. And if I tap C on the keyboard while I brush over that hole, I'll get a nice dimension from, and I think maybe I'll make that 50 and just drop that down. So if I continue on, I'll tap C, and sometimes you need a toggle. I just tap T on the keyboard, or there is a button up there on the quick bar, and then I'll come over here. Sometimes you need to brush over an element, and I'm just going to place that one so it's lined up. Now, I didn't dimension every one of them because I know my design intent panel is going to kick in and maintain aligned holes. So if I change this, it's naturally going to pick up that other hole, so I don't necessarily need to create those other dimensions. Also, you want to notice over here in your Pathfinder that you have all these holes nested under a collector. So that means they're all going to be the same size. And they'll also be recognized as a pattern when you go into assembly, which is great. So I'm going to switch this. There are essentially some pre-saved holes in here. So if I did half countersink, so you see they all change. That's really the point. There is a nice standards-based dialog if you want to select different types of holes. You can kind of give it a more casual, saved configuration here, but they're very standards-based. And you can have this is essentially an Excel spreadsheet that drives all these standards for you. If you want to configure that in careful detail, you can do that. Save as default down here, save and give it a name up here. So you have plenty of options. I'm not going to go through every option on this dialog. I think you can examine it and discover that on your own. So let's see what the workflow would be like if we did this in ordered mode. Actually, why don't I redo that real quick? As I mentioned this in an earlier video, but when you're dimensioning holes, it's good to do the hole second when you place the dimension. So if I do a smart dimension, if you click the edge and then the hole and then place the dimension, the hole is the moving element and the arrow is set. If you do it in the other order, the edge of the part will move, which might seem a little wonky. Probably not what you want to do. So let's do this let's switch to ordered mode. Right click, transition to ordered, and do a hole command. In ordered mode, it's a very you can still do N and B to get your orientation, but in ordered mode it's a kind of a profile based, like you're sketching, but the same dialogue is there for your standards based holes. But you would use sketch relationships and other geometry to control your, so I'd probably just, drop these in and something like that, and then I would place dimensions. I won't get too carried away, but that's the idea. You might even need to do some extra geometry, like some construction elements, if you needed to get that lock to the center, for example. Oops. There we go. So I've kind of just drawn a construction line, locked the midpoint of the construction line on center, and then locked the end points of the holes. So that kind of, and then when you close out, the holes will be created. So it's a kind of a profile based, but other than that, it's very, very similar to the ordered approach. They both will be recognized as a user pattern in assembly, so you can easily fill those with screws. So whichever I'd say, with holes, whichever one you like, if ordered or synchronous. And at some point, if you want to move that to synchronous, you can certainly do that. You can right click, move to synchronous, and they'll become, synchronous features. All right, so that's hole command in a nutshell.